Blessings for this week. I wanted to come on here and share about an experience. So, this week in the US, in New York City, the General Week Assembly is going on. So, it's happening there. And the United Nations is facilitating the Youth Lead Festival. And I was asked to send in a video sharing my insights on how climate change is affecting small island developing states. And while I was working on the video, trying to send it over, I remembered that this was the exact week a year ago that I attended the United Nations Summit of the Future. And boy, here I'm thinking of that experience, and I wanted to share with you all. So, I've never traveled out of the country before, and really, I was hoping my first ever experience would be traveling to Fiji or Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, somewhere close by. Here I was traveling to the US, to New York City, with no experience of traveling internationally. So I was, and I'm thankful, I was supported by the United Nations office here in the country. So I stayed for a while in Port Moresby, and then I traveled to Singapore. I think that took about 8 hours. And then from Singapore to Newark International Airport took about 18, 16 hours around there. And it was a very long flight. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the plane. The food, amazing. The people I sat next to, amazing people, amazing individuals. When I arrived there at Singapore, they had about, what was it, 80 something terminals, and I was supposed to go to the 18th terminal to board my next flight. And I was thankful to travel with one of my brothers who is also a youth advocate. So he was able to direct me on where to go. When I arrived in New York City, when I arrived at Newark International Airport, I did not know anything. I did not have any money on me. I was just praying that somehow I would get to the hotel safely because I couldn't get in touch with my fellow participants, the other 10 individuals that we were going with, and it was very, very depressing and stressful. Here I am in another country, not knowing anyone, not knowing where I was and how I was going to get to my hotel room. And then there was this very kind Uber driver that walked up to me. He was, I think, African American. He walked up to me and he said, "Miss, do you need a ride?" And because he was the only person that approached me, I trusted him with my life, and he drove me. So Newark International Airport was in New Jersey, and we had to drive all the way to Manhattan where our hotel was. So from there, I had to wait outside because I did not have a hotel room key. So I had to wait outside for another hour or so because it was 5 in the morning. It was very early. I had to wait for my my fellow participants, to get up and freshen up and then come down. And because I wasn't able to purchase any data bundles online, I wasn't able to connect to the internet the whole trip down to the hotel room. Luckily, the hotel room had access to Wi-Fi. Literally every part of New York City has access to Wi-Fi. Every building has free Wi-Fi, so very convenient. And I got in touch with my friends, and I took about 10 minutes to get ready to travel to where the headquarters of the United Nations was for the start of the program. The start of the program. To make it worse, I was speaking about climate change that first day, and I had just arrived for about how many hours I had traveled, like 24, 25 hours I traveled. I was tired, I couldn't sleep because it was my first time traveling for more than 1 hour. and I couldn't sleep, so I was tired. When I arrived there, I got ready really quickly. When I got onto the stage to talk about climate change in the Pacific and Papua New Guinea, I got so nervous I couldn't go on. I stopped, and then I contradicted myself for a bit with things that I said, and then I told everyone, I'm not a climate change expert, whatever. I am a youth advocate. I talk about young people. And then after that, it was just, perfect, because I had people coming up and saying, hey, you're only human, you're allowed to make mistakes, and sitting down up there looking at everyone else. And I was put up there with the United Nations humanitarian coordinator. I was put up there with young people who were driving change in their various countries. And this is me, only new to the youth space, knowing nothing at all about climate change. Really, the only thing was the rise in sea level. It affects many communities in the Pacific and Papua New Guinea, and saltwater intrusion, saltwater emerging into our land makes it impossible for us to plant and grow our own food, so that's a reason for us to relocate. So basic knowledge on climate change, but otherwise it was very interesting. That whole time that we were there, a few friends of mine made sure we did not sleep. So I had a friend from South Africa who kept saying, you will sleep when you go back to your country. So for the 4 days that we have been there, we hardly slept. So we just went around New York City, Times Square, Sephora, Zara, all of these brands. So we were just going around looking at, eye shopping, looking at things. And my other friend wanted to purchase an iPhone, so we are going through all the iPhone stores as well, trying to see one that he liked. But unfortunately, he never got one, and we returned to our countries. Yeah, but it was very nice to see young people. We have 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds standing there talking about change, talking about what they want to see changed in their countries, and it was very inspiring and motivating and empowering to see young people and children that young talk about what they wanted. And I think back to my country and think about what young people at that same age, what they're doing in their spaces, and it concerns me. And meeting all these young people, hearing them talk, listening to all the wealth of knowledge they have about their various countries only inspired me to do the same, to know about my country, what is needed to be done, what can I do. We're always blaming the government. The government is responsible for this and that, but what am I doing as an individual, as a citizen of this country? What am I doing? So the 3 days ended with the Pact for the Future, which is a document that contains all the recommendations and commitments that was made in the past few days to be given to the Secretary General for implementation. So really everything that we talked about, from gender-based violence to climate change to how patriarchal norms are changing the systems, um, how women been violated in their countries, various topics like this. Everything that we went through had recommendations, had commitments, and we were passed on to the Secretary General for implementation. So it was a very exciting, engaging 4 days. And on top of it all, we did not sleep. So we were walking here and there to Brooklyn Bridge and Times Square, and really everywhere in New York City. And when we came back, it was very fulfilling. But I hope that, young people out there, when you see opportunities like this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, try them out, apply for them. You never know your chances of getting in. And when you do, you will be empowered to do so much for your country. You will be responsible. You will feel responsible for everything that's happening in your country. And you will try to make it better.